Welcome in, everybody. It's Esports Weekly yet again, this time on a Tuesday. This is what we're doing now. Hopefully you like it more, because I think I like it more. We're going to wait and see, but so far, so good. We got a great show for you today. A lot of discussions about last week during the SPL, the SCL, the minor league. We've got great discussion about the meta coming up, Pele viable this week, so we'll talk about that. And a big late-breaking roster change that we're going to go over. We'll key you in on that in a little bit. But first, let's go over what happened in this last week. In order to do that, I've got Anatoly and John Finch on the desk with me. Gentlemen, let's start with the SCL. And in fact, let's start with console, if we can get those standings to see exactly where everyone's sitting. Rival continues to look very, very good, but they do seem to be human so far.
There's no surprises that the European region is being dominated out of Rival North America from Astral Authority. Rival has been known to dominate their online portion, and so far in Season 5 has stepped it up in the LAN, winning spring, almost winning the summer. I think that they're on the right pacing to maybe even win fall.
But you're right there, Ryan. I think that they have been kind of showing a little bit more weakness here so far in the online phases up against Cyclone, right? They had a hard time closing that second game out in particular, and we saw it earlier on. They are still 3-0 at this point. They've been able to close out their sets, yes, but they haven't been maybe as clean as we've been used to seeing from Rival in the online phases before.
Rival did end up 2-0ing Retribution during week 2 as well. I just feel like Rival as a whole, it feels like they're dropping games that they shouldn't, or putting themselves in position to drop games where you would expect them to do so. Week 3, we saw them 2-0 Cyclone, but as you mentioned, a little bit tough. They really should have lost that game too overall.
I'm not too concerned for Rival though, because we could look at a lot of different SPL teams that have that same track record where they might not have the cleanest online games, but when they come into the LAN environment, I'm looking specifically out of Rival in PC and E United out of PC, they just dominate the whole LAN environment.
No, you're totally right, and that's completely fair. A win is a win is a win. It doesn't really matter how you get it. It just matters that you get it. And Astral Authority's getting those wins on the North American side of things. They continue to look very strong, so those are the two teams to keep an eye on. Let's take a look at PS4 and how they did this week. Finch's favorite team, the Playing Ducks, ended up falling during week 3, but they won in week 2, beating Insomnia.
That's right, and that was not easy for them. Game 1 was rough for Playing Ducks back then. They were able to kind of climb back in some long game 2 and game 3. Broke my heart a little bit, though, in week 3 when they went up against Bulldog Esports. I mean, that one was a 2-0. Well, Bulldog was able to get it pretty easily. I'm sure you were happy watching Zeus frag out and they're looking good. So
always.
Good for you at the very least. But yeah, I mean, Bulldog, it was surprising, right? Because they were 0-2 going into that set. We were watching them play so much better than Playing Ducks, really, that we were surprised. How'd they end up 0-2 at that point?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what Bulldog Esports has moving forward, whereas in North America, Evil Lemons has had a bit of struggle so far.
Yeah.
They are sitting at 0-3 in control, sitting up on top. Excited to get a chance to watch them go up against the other North American members. And in fact, let's take a look at the schedule for this next week coming up in the console leagues. We've got the Xbox and PS4, of course. This is your PS4 schedule.
Oh, that's good sets.
And we'll get to see Bulldog up against Insomnia and Coalition versus Strictly Business.
Coalition needs to win this one. They're right just one set underneath that top standings, and they really need to find this one. And they had a dominant performance last week against Evil Lemons. I'm specifically looking at the solo and the jungle performance, the way they combined in that set. I think they can definitely transition that to week 4.
I think that's going to be a big one, too. I'm also looking at that Bulldog Insomnia one. Insomnia looked good back sort of around like week 1, but they had a bit of struggles there in week 2. Bulldog, we just came off their victory, so they're feeling hot. Which one of those teams can really start to build some momentum is kind of where my eyes are at.
Well, let's take a look at the Xbox schedule as well for this upcoming week. Remember, we usually do Esports Weekly on Monday, so it's after our show here on Esports Weekly. This time, not so lucky for that. If you're looking for Console League, that is on Mondays starting at 11. So at 11, you can check out Cyclone GG up against Retribution, a very big game to try and contest up against Rival from the bottom of the league, and then Armada versus Elevate. Again, two teams trying to catch up to the leader in their league, and that is Astral Authority in North America. Armada and Elevate, two very experienced teams. I think that if there's a team that's going to potentially lose their perfect record, it would be Astral Authority, just because North America feels so competitive right now.
It really is tough, but I really do think, for the most part, they're worried about Flashpoint, really, over there on the North American Xbox side. Armada, they were looking okay. Their one win was up against Elevate, so I'm excited to see if maybe they can do it up again. But, I mean, yes, there's a chance, but I really think it's mostly Flashpoint they're worried about.
Flashpoint, certainly a veteran team to watch out for. Okay, that's the SMITE Console League. Let's move on to the SMITE Minor League. We saw a lot of really, really good games this week. A couple people really rise up the ranks in Europe pretty quickly. I'm thinking of Milky Way there, who had a pretty good week for themselves. Optimus Gang continued to look very solid. They beat the Poppies and did so pretty convincingly. But Milky Way go from 0-3, I believe it was, coming into this week, to now sitting basically in the middle of the pack in the European Minor League.
I think a lot of it came down to Marcus's performance, playing a lot of global pressure gods and just being able to stretch the map very thin for Milky Way to find these 2 victories. Now that concludes the first half of the split. What can they do off of that momentum from 2 wins? Because that could be a start of greatness for them.
And we talked about this a little bit going into that week, right? That really Milky Way's 2 of those 3 losses were against Optimus Gang and Insignum. And to be fair, no one's beating those guys right now except for each other. So, maybe Milky Way weren't as bad as we thought or weren't, that far down. And we kind of saw that on display. They won the back-to-back sets. They were able to make them happen. Now they're right there in the pack with Exordium, who struggled a little bit as well. So, really, to make it up to that top 3, that's where you want to be in the minor league. Milky Way absolutely have a chance to do it.
Whereas the top 3 in North America, very hotly contested now. Sanguine Classified and Armada Esports, all sitting at 3-2.
Crazy.
Cryptic finally got on the board this week, but it wasn't pretty. It really does feel like a 3-team race in order for 2 spots. Very nice to me. They certainly feel like they've got that one basically wrapped up with how well they played.
It's no surprise, honestly. WoW's team always seems to dominate no matter what split it is, honestly. Here in the fall split, I think a lot of it comes down to Amuel in the mid lane. He's been having a wonderful performance. I think his Morrigan is the standout character selection.
It's so impressive, too. Very nice to me. Haven't they had 2 roster changes at this point already, too? I was really worried for them when they lost a couple players out from their roster. They wouldn't be able to keep it up. But I've seen no slowing down from them so far. But you're right beneath them, it's just this clumped up pack, right? 2.0 get picked up. They're classified now. They're looking kind of good as well. I mean, Armada are on their way up there, too. It's hard to predict in North America.
How come I can't know the name of 2.0's new team?
It's redacted. It's classified information. I do have a email server you can check, though.
Oh, okay, cool. Is it secure or?
Nah, it's just my own thing.
Oh, well, good. Okay, good. Yeah, that's the way we like it. I will say that if for the teams that are looking to break that clump up, I'm looking at Armada. Benny Q on that team has looked very, very good as of late. He had a great performance. I believe he got a delayed pentakill this week on an Izanami pick. And that's kind of you're looking for these standout players, right, that are able to break that up. I'm looking at Benny Q for Armada right now.
And Benny Q is not only just a 100 player, he's played the Assassins as well in that role, played the Kali, the one particular week 2 matchup, I believe it was. So when you have that kind of a player that can just flex his god pool in that role specifically, then how do you really ban against Armada? And I think there's a difference between banning some team out online versus the LAN. So if Armada can keep finding these wins, they get into a LAN environment, I don't think they get stopped.
And it's very different. I mean, it's best of ones. Let's be honest about it, right? It's a different type of way that they're able to find these wins sometimes. If you can get ahead a little bit early, if you can catch your opponents off guard, it is harder. So you have to adjust so much faster, I feel like, for these SML teams. And Armada, I think, is one of those teams that's done a good job of sort of capitalizing on that and sort of catching people off guard. Classified as well have done a good job of that, or 2.0, whatever you want to call it.
Exactly. So we'll see who has to go up against Benny Q and Armada as we take a look at the schedule for this next week. The minor league is going to have a really good one because that means Optimus Gang and Insignum get to face off again. That'll be on Thursday to kick off the day, so make sure you tune in at 11 a.m. sharp for that matchup. We've also got Very Nice to Me up against Armada, so a really good proving ground for them. Armada also does finish the day on Friday up against ranked All-Stars, and if you're going to be making top 3, those are the sets you need to win.
If Armada win both of their sets, they should definitely be feeling pretty about starting the second half split in such a dominating fashion, but I got to go back to this Optimus Gang Insignum matchup.
Oh, yeah.
Still undefeated as Optimus Gang. Insignum only losing to Optimus, and it's going to come down to the jungle matchup, Lasbra versus Johnny. Johnny known to play a lot of the Ao Kuangs. Is this finally the time where Ao Kuang gets banned against him? I think it must be done.
No, I'm right there with you, Tully. I think you're dead on to say that Optimus, as good as Optimus Gang are, it really feels like the thing that's kind of pushed them up in fall split has been Johnny's performance. He's been playing literally out of his mind at this point. And Insignum, they beat Optimus Gang up until now. It's just really that time earlier on in the fall split where they struggled. So if any team can do it, I know this Insignum roster can get it done, and I think that it's going to be around trying to limit Johnny's impact.
Again, Thursday and Friday, 11 a.m., that's where you can check out the SMITE Minor League. Whereas the SMITE Global Series, what we're going to talk about next, that can be found at 11 a.m. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, a.k.a. right after Esports Weekly. And here's what you missed out on last week. We saw Southeast Asia and Brazil get on my level, was able to beat Mashu Boys 2-1, whereas ETES Esports went 2-0 over Watch My Nene, and ETES beat Black Dragons the week before, so that is critical now. Or excuse me, that was No Ping who beat Black Dragons. I got my esports teams mixed up there in Brazil, but Brazil now with Black Dragons dropping a game, feels a little bit more open.
It definitely feels like the rest of Brazil is finally catching up to Black Dragons. Now, even though they found a map over no ping walking away cleanly with that set. So looking at the standings here for Brazil in particular, no ping is the one on top, and they could be the ones representing Brazil coming for the HRX.
And it's not just there where there's some interesting. Take a look at LATAM and North. Meanwhile, so Serial up to this point have been a little bit uncontested. I feel like, at least out of the North region, they've had some troubles up against Nocturnes when they play. But now Loto Gaming is right there behind YSO Serial as well. So it's a lot of stuff to keep your eyes on. Nocturnes are continuing to look strong, of course. But around these regions, some of the representatives we've gotten used to seeing, we might be seeing somebody different.
It's getting down to the wire already, it feels like, for the SMITE Global Series. Again, you can catch that right after Esports Weekly. That'll be at 11 a.m. That all brings us to the SMITEPro League, the SPL. And last week was one where things got, in some ways, went the way we expected.
Sure.
And in others kind of surprised us. And we can take a look at the standings or the schedule, whatever we've got from last week. But I really feel like North America feels a lot more open than I thought it would coming into last week.
I think we can definitely look at that particular Splice versus SSG matchup where a lot of analysts and a lot of fans at home definitely were favoring out Space Station with just their track record, being able to beat everybody minus EU United, right? So
yes.
The fact that Splice walk away with a set here, and I think a lot of credit goes to the frontliners. It was Divios and Aurora that really made the impact in that set.
Yeah, it's Splice, I feel like, that are kind of shaking things up. They also are able to beat Trifecta. But the door, it's wide open. It really is now. CLG, maybe not looking as strong as we thought. Trifecta has some roster changes. They're looking a little bit different as well. Space Station not looking as dominant as before. So if you're not EU United, then I don't think you have a ticket at all. It is not confirmed. You have got to try and win every single match right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that North America, again, you want to get in top 2. That means you don't have to go to the placement rounds.
It's huge.
You just punch your ticket to DreamHack.
Yeah.
It gets you great seating. It's exactly what you need. And I don't know the second team out of North America right now. But we'll start in Europe. I think the standout match last week in Europe was Dignitas versus Obey.
Yeah.
In the sense that, yes, Dignitas won, which is kind of the expected result. At least it was for me. But Obey did impress me in this match. And I do think that Obey is becoming a real contender in Europe.
They've always been the wild card factor out of Europe, being able to find victories over Energy at times, over Rival now as well at the fall split, finding themselves one victory over Dignitas, very close to finding this set, still remaining undefeated. The black and yellow squad is just an outstanding fall beginning. I think they took the losses in the summertime to heart to be able to improve in such a dominating fashion, and when they are tested, they still pull through.
And to me, at least for Obey looking different here, it's got to be all about Prime, at least for me. He's playing so well for them on these immobile mages. That's kind of, I feel like, getting back to Prime's bread and butter, right? His positioning being superb in those team fights, picking all the correct moments in them as well. When Prime is playing like the way that he's playing right now, then Obey are in that conversation for one of those top 3 teams, I think, without a doubt. It's just, can they keep him and the rest of the team playing at that level around?
It's going to be so much fun to watch this Obey team, and if they can continue to get back to the form that you really expect them to be in at the beginning of this season, I think it will make Europe that much more interesting, as if we needed more help there, because Europe has been an absolute blast to watch basically all season long. And now let's move to NA, where, like Toli said, Splice versus SSG. It was a very long game in Game 2 where it feels like SSG's got control and they kind of throw it away with one team fight. But this was a really hard-fought set on both sides.
And like I said before, it came down to both Divios and Aurora. Game 2, it was Divios playing Xing Chen, Aurora playing the Ardio. So there was just a lot of control, and a lot of teams are sleeping on Xing Chen, where I think that teams need to start waking up and realizing that against some of these double 100 compositions, against some of these hyper carry gods in the dual lane, that you need the Xing Chen with the Furious Roar, and that's what they did in game number 3. A lot shorter of a game. There was no comeback necessary. It would lasted only 24 minutes. Still got to give it to Divios and Aurora, but you can't count out Cyclone Spin. Game number 2 is playing the Shibalanke, which disrupts what Space Station wanted to do that whole time.
He also looked really good on that Izanami in the game where you said where they were so dominant, right? We've given Cyclone Spin, I feel like, a bit of a hard time over his god pool because he doesn't play a lot of the same hunters that everyone else playing. But if my man is going to look like this on his picks, then let him pick him. I mean, he was such a big difference maker for them in that Game 3. But I mean, what is going on with Space Station too? I mean, they're starting to struggle a little bit. I feel like maybe they still haven't jived quite well with Venenu. They're in the middle lane. I've been saying for a while now, I feel like we need to see a little bit more out of Andenster as well. I mean, I just don't think he's been consistent. I mean, this team has some stuff they've got to clean up.
Very clearly so, and I do think that this was a close setup, and I think that Space Station, it hurts to lose this one, especially with how tight this top 2 race is going to be. but I do think that Space Station winning game 1, by the way, Bear's highlight from that game that we just saw was just sick. And if he can play like that more consistently, I think Bear has had some consistency issues so far this split, and really in a lot of Season 5 in general. I think that Space Station walks away going, if we just don't throw that fight game 2, we're in a much better position, because they earned it game 2 through a really long Fire Giant team fight. They've actually got a team fight breakdown coming out about that soon. And
okay, yeah, plug it.
Yeah, I'm going to plug it. Finch, you got a problem with that?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Good.
You want to hear an SEL recap? Finch is doing those. How about that, aggro?
Why didn't you? I would have said that during the...
you didn't. You know I'm doing those. There's no secret.
I forgot.
I feel like the kid in a broken marriage right now.
Yeah, mom and dad are
just fighting.
Yeah, you can come with me, Tully. I'll take Tully.
It's going to be okay, honey.
What's happening?
I love you more. Anyways, Splice versus SSG went Splice's way. Trifecta versus Luminosity we've got next on the list. And this doesn't seem like a particularly big match to highlight, but I think it does say something about where the rest of NA is and just where Trifecta is in relation, because Trifecta just stomped Luminosity for the most part. Game 2 was very long, but it really felt like Trifecta was in control for the majority of it. It was really Paul in particular who dominated this set. And I think this set showed me, sure, Luminosity's at the bottom end of North America, but it still showed me that Trifecta is a real contender, I think.
They just remain to be aggressive, and when you have an Uller for Paul, one of his bread and butter gods in that mid lane, up against Shadowchair's Opwash, a very immobile mage, it just makes it so much easier to find some of these kills. Scary D was playing lights out, Gino's playing this non-just support that's throwing LG for a loop, and I think that Luminosity on game number 2, I believe Weekend was playing the Arachne, which was very lackluster, unfortunately. Couldn't really make those plays happen.
And really, this set highlighted, as good as Paul looked, Shadowchair did not on the other side, right?
Yes.
I think that this has highlighted that LG still has some work to do as a team, I think, to fully integrate Shadowchair in and make sure that he's able to, fully perform with them. Because, yes, it's the Uller matchup. Yes, he's going to have that pressure there, but also just some positioning mistakes you can't make, right? When you know that you're going up against the Uller. In game 2, I think he looked better for what it's worth from that game 1 where things really got off the rails quickly. But still, I feel like that is one of those spots on LG they know they got to clean up.
Now, later on in the week, Trifecta did end up losing pretty heavily up against Splice, so you wonder how much of a contender they really are. I don't think that Trifecta is competing for top 2 here, but I do think Trifecta is a team that can surprise teams at the placement round.
It's very possible. I think that the LAN, anything happens. Just the God pool and the composition and the style of the aggression, if they have a committed early game strategy, that they can just run away with it.
No, I'm right there with you. I don't think Trifecta are out of it. And for what it's worth, outside of the top 2 absolutely still matters for where you are in the bracket and everything moving into the placement stage. So I agree that maybe they don't have top 2, but the difference between 3rd and 5th could be huge depending on who's on the other side. So they absolutely got to be fighting for every place they can get.
Completely agree. Let's take a look at the standings for where all these teams are sitting currently moving in towards this week 4. Dignitas still undefeated, by the way, 5-0, as is the United, 5-0.
Yeah.
And then every other team, 3-2 or worse so far. CLG sitting at 2-3. They're -1. Again, that plus-minus does end up impacting you. Both Luminosity and Trifecta sitting at 1-4, though Trifecta did just have that convincing set victory over Luminosity in that last week. SK sitting at 0-5, Mouse at 1-4, and we're going to go into Mouse Sports as a whole in just a little bit because we've got some stuff to talk about with that squad. But before that, we've got to do our top plays and top fails of the week, and for that, we've got F-Dot standing by.
It was good, folks. Mad fun last week. A lot of different picks going on, and of course, I'm going to celebrate it. Top 3 plays coming at you right now. Number 3, Adapted coming in hot. If he's going to play this character, I've got to show him some love. Thanatos came off the top, but honestly, this is much less about Thanatos and more about the team play. This is old-fashioned, just spacing control. Everybody blocking the Giannis portal. You got to love it. That's the clean stuff, just nice and easy. Now, here's the predictable part. Guess what happened last week? Aggro got his favorite. We got to see a warrior in the middle lane. Chalk mid was played, and Aggro loved it so much that he made me put it on the top plays. So number 2 is going to be Big Man Tings playing Chalk mid. It's actually really big impact. Check this out, early game rotation. Now he doesn't get this first kill, but he really gets that first kill. So this is basically a triple kill. He's able to hang out. He slows the entire team. 3-man silence. That's just cool. That's just awesome. Real talk. Aggro didn't pick that. I picked that. In fact, I picked 3 separate Chalk mid highlights. but they told me that I could only have one. So that's what you got. Top play is not Shock Mid, unfortunately. Top play is going to be Venenu playing the Morgan, and sure, he gets some nice kills, but it is more about how sneaky he is. He gets to wiggle in and out of a team fight here and really flex out the invisibility. Let's take a look real quick and see Venenu getting away from the opposition. So here, this is just him being aggressive, right? Bang, gets one kill. But then he's going to go ahead and stay in the fight, go into Naja, and he's playing the Morgan. He does the changeling and all that nonsense, and then he gets punished, obviously, right? He's down below, he's going to get followed, and I love this after part. Here, watch. He gets jumped by a bunch of players, and he's in trouble, Aegis, but look how sneaky he is. He's going to go ahead and be invisible and just hide. Nobody knows. And then he sneaks his way out of there, and fun stuff. So 3 plays over there. Venenu able to get out, no problem. That's going to be my top play of the week. And of course, if we take a look at the good, we got to take a look at the ugly as well. Top fail coming through. This is Creeper Coon over in the solo lane, pulling the old Wolfie 2032, if you guys can remember. Let's take a look at the solo laner teleporting back to his lane. But he forgot the key part about teleporting back to his lane. You want to back first. Here he just boink. Oh, you hate to see it, except you really don't. It's so good.
I didn't even know my mic was on.
Yeah.
I really felt like, oh no, whenever that happened.
Oh, that was so funny. I lost it. So that's going to be our top play. Agro's here. What's up, man?
Hey, I'm here. So is Finch. Anatoly had to take a nap.
Yeah.
Like he's our kid. It's a carryover bit from before.
No. Also, I noticed you didn't plug our podcast. You guys are up there plugging everything. You don't plug our podcast. I was yelling, plug our podcast.
I didn't hear you yell at all. Is that really a podcast? Like, is that what we're calling that?
I don't know what podcast means.
Okay.
But we talk for like an hour.
Yeah. Finch, any input on this? Is that a podcast?
We've yet to put it up in podcast form.
Okay,
that's true.
So probably not a podcast. Watch their show. It's on Saturdays at some time. They talk about some stuff. 2:00. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, so we don't have an interview this week, but I think that we've got something better for you. Mouse Sports makes a big change, and I want to start there. So this whole last week, it's been Dardes playing Hunters in the duo lane alongside Spudio playing another Hunter, which, while we have the single on me right now, is unequivocally bad. Cool, got that out of the way. Now, however, they are replacing Spudio with, drumroll please, Dardes in that Hunter role. Now he actually gets to play the Hunters, Cheerio moving from jungle to support, and they put Frostiak in jungle. Guys, gut reactions.
It really does feel like they're doing kind of what you expect, though, right? In a weird way, because Dardes does kind of feel like they're carry sometimes, and Cheerio likes to play the Guardians in the jungle role. So it kind of makes sense, but I just don't know. I mean, do you think that even with these swaps, they're going to play traditional stuff? I don't know. I don't think that they are, even with the role swaps going through. So it's hard to judge it so far, but this is crazy. I don't think Spudio was the problem with this team. I'm surprised to hear he's not with this roster anymore.
I mean, Spudio was a fill-in. He was a long-time sub, and he comes through. And I agree. I don't think Spudio was the problem with this team. But at the same time, I think there was a ceiling that with Spudio.
Sure.
And whether or not they had reached that ceiling, I guess, is a different conversation. But the definitely, with Dardes playing Hunters instead of even venturing into the support role, clearly the idea is that Dardes is a better player overall and can carry harder from that position. We'll see. Maybe the conversation was less about, this is also something, the possibility, maybe the conversation was less about Spudio needing to go and more about Cheerio being bad in the jungle, being moved over to support. Dardes moves over, and then I guess we'll take a Frostiak. You know what I mean?
It does mean in the end that they think that Frostiak is a better jungler than Spudio could make up, right? That you don't want to keep him on the team in any capacity. They couldn't put him there. And so, and to be fair, Frostiak's been playing in the jungle. He's been down in the minor league some as well, kind of keeping those reps in the gym and everything there. But I mean, it's just tough, isn't it? Like to Because if he came in and in summer, I think that they looked better with him for his part. It wasn't just that they looked good with him. He was also contributing. It just is tough when it ends up shaking out like that.
You're telling me that Spudio looked better when they were giving him ADC level farm and letting him play ADC by himself correctly. Okay, cool. I do want to read Big Man Ting's tweet longer, kind of the announcement, or at least parts of it. This will be a quote here. Sadly, this fall split and the weeks coming to the start of the fall split, we as a team have not been the same. We were having rough practice and the atmosphere wasn't the best, which has led us to our poor form in the fall split. As a team, we felt like a change was needed if we wanted any chance of having a shot at HRX. And then continued later on. It may seem sudden and possibly wrong to the outside eye. However, the confidence of all of us really hit rock bottom, as it probably showed in our last set versus Obey Alliance. However, we feel like this is the best option moving forward. We think this roster allows players to play their strengths and hopefully allows us to play more effectively and have better cohesion as a team.
That's that second or third to last sentence. This allows players to play their strengths. Cherio's strength is playing these supportive
We've seen this
characters.
before, haven't we? Haven't we seen Cherio support before?
And it was fine.
No, it was not fine. The last time we saw Cherio support, it was bad.
It was bad?
It was very bad. Yeah. But that was the beginning of season 4, I believe. So that was some time ago. Completely different support meta. But that was the beginning of a season, if memory serves, where theoretically he would have more ramp up time and time to adjust. This is a middle of the split change where your backs are against the wall. That's a lot of pressure. How well can you do in a role swap where you have to learn the whole role? Yeah. Dardes is, for all of his talents, not a teddy bear in that lane. We've heard lots of reports that he can be difficult to work with at times. If Cherio's doing something wrong, is Dardes going to be like, hey, bud, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Just do it this way instead. Is that the tone we're going to get? I think there's a lot of questions there for not just the team itself, but the way that how quickly they can actually adjust to this.
And I'm not saying that this is the ideal path or even an easy path, but technically they could lose out to the rest of the split, right? And still have a shot at making it. It would not be easy,
they go to placements.
but they certainly have that opportunity. So I guess even if they have to take these growing pains, and what better practice is there than up against the best in Europe, right? In all honesty, they still have a chance. And they're historically very good in LAN environments. Maybe even if they do take some L's here, they show us something in LAN, right? Trying the same thing now.
Cherio does step up at LAN, but now shifting over to the support position. I feel you on the ramp up time, but something that I was very adamant about when they were playing that kind of nonsense composition. Cherio is playing support in the jungle, and I think that the laning phase will be a little bit different. But I feel like obviously they've been scrimming for a little bit with it. Like that has to have happened at least once. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So between the pro level experience of starting in the jungle but playing support overall and a couple of laning phases in the scrim time, I'm not saying he's coming in looking like Jeff Hindler today or tomorrow, but I think that it's probably not step one for Cherio. I am less concerned about Cherio in support and honestly more concerned about Frostiak in the jungle. I have never once in all of his years of playing Smite been truly impressed with Frostiak, and it's the reason that I bring up such a scathing commentary is really because if you're going to make a roster change, to me, like I feel like this is swapping out something low for something low, like a Spudio switch for Frostiak. I need to see it on the field because on paper it doesn't make any sense to me.
Fair enough. We'll have to wait and see what Mouse Sports is going to do. They play up against Dignitas later on today, so we'll get a chance pretty soon to see how good Mouse can be, and we also might get a chance to see how good Pele can be. Pele available now in week 4. Do we think we'll see her? Will she be top priority? What do you guys expect?
I expect to see her, and I do expect her to be a top priority. I think she's going to be very valuable in the jungle, especially here at this SPL level. There is some chance, I think, for her to get punished maybe in like your ranked games, is in late game. But I mean, her ability to just farm early is not matched very often, especially with Najad not being valued quite as much, right? Her pace that she makes through the jungle is going to be very difficult to keep up with, and I think SPL teams can absolutely capitalize on that.
I think junglers specifically like Annister and Scream, these guys really like to set the bar. They like to be the first actor, right? I think junglers like that will take advantage of Pele. Her movement speed is, like a wheeler status with her third ability and the ability to just ramp up and go faster. So I think that that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know if And I don't want to make it sound like I think Pele's going to be 100% in the jungle either. We've seen some Pele in some other roles too. I mean, she doesn't have the world's worst clear available to her too, and her rotations can be pretty impactful. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Pele. I'm for sure we're going to see Pele. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in places that aren't just the jungle either, because she throws out the first ability, it comes back and clear the wave through. It's pretty nice. I mean, she's got some tools at her disposal. She can be pretty strong in those mid game fights as well. I would not be surprised if we see her.
Yeah, and we've seen, because my mind of reading, like why would you play a Pele solo? But I think it's a similar conversation to Camazotz, where you're playing like a Blood Death Knight, where you're not necessarily tanky, but your lifesteal is so incredibly high, her passive, once she goes down low, that you are theoretically tanky, effective health, and it gets all mathy, but you're staying alive by lifesteal, right? So I think that's an element where Pele could be thought of as the solo laner, but she's not she doesn't strike me as one of these characters. Like Baron came on the scene, and despite the fact that he was a mage, like clearly he's going to be in the solo lane. I don't think that's necessarily the case with Pele. I think she can totally be played there, and Kiki might do it, but I don't really see the average solo laner approaching the game and going, "Oh, Pele, that's my thing."
Yeah, I can agree with you there. I think that Pele reminds me of Susano when Susano first came out, in the sense that I don't feel like I'm really in position in mid lane against Pele ever, because Pele will, the drums will start playing, she'll come screaming out of the jungle, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, she's just so much faster than you all the time. I just buy Bumba's mask is the real answer to that question.
Oh, then you can be even faster.
Also very fast. Yeah. But then she buys Bumba's mask, and then she's extra fast, but she's still faster than me at base, and then I do take more damage.
I mean, she goes so fast.
It's such a, I mean, she has that big AoE knockup too, right? I feel like we kind of bury the lead a little bit onto. I mean, yes, her steroid, where she uses that field move around is very cool, but I mean it's huge inside a team.
And it does a lot of damage.
It does. It is not. It's when she has that steroid going as well, right? And then she's able to come in and drop down. It's so much damage. And maybe if she's like ganking you, it doesn't feel as impactful. It can be kind of slow for it to radiate out. But I think the biggest impact for it, aside from like blink initiations, really is going to be in those team fights when there's so much going on. You can't keep track of it as it's spreading out, because there's a million half other things you already think about, and your team can capitalize on that window.
She's similar to a lot of characters that have poor team fights, which is very interesting, right? The idea that she's going to single target somebody, right? And with the lifesteal, even the ultimate is very single target based, but then she's got the 2 and the AoE damage. It feels like she kind of does both things. Right. So I'm selecting her in a Naja sort of way, but then she has access to the knockup and everything. And it's kind of scary. So I am not, I'm afraid of sounding silly here, but I'm not certain that she's going to be first pick, first ban.
Sure.
But I think she'll be valuable.
Sure. Yeah. Excited to see what she brings. That, man, those cone auto attacks after the ultimate,
so cool,
it
right?
only hits one target, but those things swing and do a lot of damage throughout the team fight. I'm excited. I hope we see a big play with that volcanic lightning and the auto attacks afterwards. I'm super excited about it. Thanks, guys. It's time for us to move on to the meme video. We like memes.
I hate that word.
Is that something that we do? Do we do those?
Can we not say that word anymore?
Yeah, it's memes.
Is that cool? No memes?
Memes.
You like it? Put a ring on it. That's exactly what Elevate don't want to do, to give Boronic the Zeus option.
That combo is so old, Anatoly played it in the Pro League.
Stop.
Looking for Neximus. Left side has Mr. White. Layers of Death in the sky. They're all clumped up. Mr. White's going to be the target, but he jumps over the double hammer. Now, here comes the Suns. I
guess you could kind of use it as a baiting tactic, but in a more mannerable fashion, you can shut down the Rama and help the Freya get ahead to actually make these Gold Furies more meaningful.
I was agreeing with you, and then I just started doing the robot.
The robot? And you dropped your pen.
I did drop my pen.
I see your spaghetti falling out of your pocket
Oh,
as well.
my goodness. I just, you dropped your pocket. I got a good one. You want to hear a good joke?
No.
Knock, knock.
I'm not doing this, hum.
No. Knock, knock.
I'm not doing this, hum. All right, who's there?
Euripides. He's like a famous god or philosopher.
Okay, Euripides who?
Euripides? Euphixides.
Sure. So no harm, no foul, right? It's no, it's
all
no
works
big
out.
deal. Well, they actually are foul because they're the ducks, and ducks are fouls.
Birds of a feather, I imagine everyone on playing ducks as they all flock together towards a pretty nice composition. Naja.
I'm lying here tonight, and I can't stand the pain, and I can't make it go away. No, I can't stand the pain. How could this happen?
Go for the Titan. Get your W right here, Cryptic.
They're going for it. The first win on the table for Cryptic. And Oswald respawns and obliterates Met Yankee. And we are going to be here for another week.
Minions on the left side. Phoenix can't do the job. Oswald here to play defense. 54 minutes, and we have 50 collective kills between the two of them. And my golly gee willikers, is this a barn burner aggro or what?
I'll go with or what. The 7th Fire Giant isn't down yet, Tolly.
You're right.
We're still 6 Fire Giants away from it really being a true barn burner.
Everybody just looking to try and catch up to In Control, but they are, in fact, the ones who are in control, sitting pretty at that 2-0.
You proud of that one?
I am.
You are?
All the time.
I'll give you a little high five. There we go. High five. There you go. So this time I've been given an actual 30 seconds to close. So I'm going to take as much time as possible. Taco, what was your favorite part of the day?
I like the color green and otters.
Also, not really what I
answer
asked.
to your question in the slightest.
Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you tomorrow. We love you. Peace. And much love to you.
That was something, huh? I love how the first half of that video is one set. It's just Astral versus Elevate from last week. That was an absolute treat. Then Anatoly and I had a long one. That's kind of where I'll end that.
Ooh,
but it's time to get to the SPL predictions for this next week. For that, as always, Hindu Man and Taco.
Hi.
Taco, it's a different day, but do you still like the color green and do you still like otters?
Actually, I love the color green and otters.
Okay, all right, cool.
So.
Green's my favorite color too, actually.
We get out of the memes and they continue.
It never stops here. Only the spiciest survive in Smite.
I guess so.
Did you not read the lower third? This week in the SPL is going to be a really big one. A lot of rematches from previous weeks, but let's take a look at how we did last week in our predictions. And please, God, let me be.
Off. Oh no! Wait, I'm still winning. Is that what's happening?
It's all right.
Am I still on top?
It's all right. Okay, so I got one wrong up again for Mouse Obey. That one was on me for sure. Taco predicted Luminosity over CLG. She got that one wrong. Graham, it looks like you had a pretty good week.
It's not hard.
Oh, yeah?
I actually just let you guys catch up a little bit, you know. That's what I try and do. But
Right.
then, you know, it doesn't work out for you because you spitball about silly ideas like Mouse is going to win a game.
Did you just go full Mr. Krabs on me
I'm sorry. The news about Mouse today has just made me lose it this morning where I'm like, okay, that's what it's going to be.
That really was full Mr. Krabs. And Taco is KO'd. All right, let's take a look at our predictions for this week so that we can try and recover for a moment here. This is our European predictions. We look pretty much the same across the board except for Taco with the spicy Obey pick. I love how Taco's always good for one spicy pick.
She is. And she always gets it
gotta
wrong,
mix it up a
too.
little bit. Yeah, at least I put myself out there.
It's true. No, you know what? I respect it.
Just like Mouse.
I truly do. Well, in some ways. Look, in Europe, we saw this week already, week one. It'll be the same thing in North America. The big matchup, it feels like, is going to be Energy versus Rival so far.
Yeah, and this matchup is definitely one of the biggest ones. I mean, Energy looking really strong. Rival on the downtrend for me. They've still not performed to the standard that we expected of them coming out of the World Championships. It kind of started to drift towards the end of spring, and then it really drifted towards the end of summer. Now we're in fall, and the other teams have caught up. The other teams in Europe have really started to match pace and actually supersede what Rival have to offer right now.
I don't know if I would necessarily call it a catch-up in a sense. I think that with the fall split kind of right around the corner and a lot of teams understanding that this is one of the contingency factors is being in the top 2 to make it into Worlds. I think that for Rival, they know that they still have a valid opportunity to try and reach that threshold, except I just feel as though some teams are kind of still withholding a little bit on us. I don't feel like we've really seen everything from every part of Europe.
I will say, though, I think that's going to be different now, though, because we're 3 weeks in. This is week 4, halfway point, and only the top 2 teams will automatically go to DreamHack direct. They don't have to play in the placement round, part of the World Championships. 2 members get all the way. And that's when you're going to start to see these matches be really impactful, because only the top 2 can make it.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really close for that top 2 in Europe and in North America at this point. But it feels like Dignitas is the one in Europe. I mean, they're sitting at 5-0 coming into this week. Energy trying to catch up right now at 3-2. So all of us have Energy going over Rival. How about Energy versus Dignitas later on in the week?
That one's going to be an interesting one. I believe as well. I actually have Dignitas down because they're still undefeated. And you can't really go wrong with them being undefeated.
Dig have just been doing such a fantastic job that I was pretty torn on trying to make the decision here because you really never know which side of Rival or Energy you're going to get when playing against Dignitas, because I feel at times Energy just has Dignitas read like the back of their hand, and then in others it's a complete 180. It's almost as though Energy have no way to possibly breach the defenses of Dignitas.
I think the online portion, Dignitas are going to be one of the stronger teams. They generally are online. The problem is when they get to lands, and we'll discover that later on. But I think this matchup specifically, you have to go with the hot hand, and the hot hand really is Dignitas, still undefeated. They've dropped a game or 2, but not accept the split. That says a lot, especially coming off the back of what happened in Summer 2.
Yeah, it's true. I do think that this is going to be... This is the game in Europe I struggled with the most, for sure, and on who I was going to pick. Dignitas, I agree that they'll probably keep their undefeated streak going, but Energy does like to step up for these sorts of games, and I could certainly see them putting an L in Dignitas' record. Before we move on from Europe, you've been talking a lot about this mouse roster change.
You don't want to do this. You don't want to do this.
Is it fair to say that you aren't feeling it now, Mr. Krabs?
Fans at home, right, in YouTube, close your eyes for a second, yeah?
Okay.
Now, think about this, okay? When your eyes are nice and closed, just have a nice... Yeah, that's right, good job. Think about this. You're halfway through the split. You've got Mouse Sports roster, okay?
Sure do.
Your following games over the next 3 weeks are, this week you've got Dignitas.
Yeah.
Next week you've got Energy.
Oof, okay.
The week after that you've got Rival and Obey.
Ooh, we don't like that.
Now, while you've got your eyes closed, now think what the best case scenario you could do to put yourself in a good position to be in good standing for Worlds. And you know what that decision is that you come to?
Put 2 hunters in the duo lane.
Frostiak in the jungle and Cherio in the support role.
I had to wake up.
And Dardes in the hunter role.
Yeah.
3 changes with 3 weeks to go in the year, and you think this is going to... Southeast Asia right now are going to place off against number 5 in EU. Now, SK is so far behind right now. Southeast Asia could win their first game against Europe. You know why? Because it's going to be against Mouse.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready to go.
It's their best chance is what I'm saying.
It is probably their best chance.
Ever. Yes. Period.
Get on my level. Better start ramping up now.
I guess the only real confusing part to me about it is that it does feel a little bit sporadic from the team. It doesn't feel properly thought out. Maybe something that they tested a couple of times in different scrim sets and figured, well, this has had better results than everything else we've tried so far in the fall split, so let's just take our chances and bank all of this in our Worlds run. But there's already been so much of a shakeup happening from the North American teams, and you can kind of see already how it's deteriorated the level of play, I would say, in North America's Pro League. But I almost feel like Mouse are just perfectly accepting of their chances, even if it does end up being a slight detriment for the team's synergy. In the long term, if they feel that it's a better choice, well, maybe Frosty still got it.
Sure.
Maybe. He's going to be involved in First Blood, one way or the
Yeah,
other.
he's either giving it or taking it.
That much we know.
They are basically handing North America the 4th spot at Worlds.
Maybe they'll turn up.
No, I don't see that happening. Yeah, I really don't. I think AU is going to send 4 teams, NA is going to send 4 teams.
Yeah, could be, certainly. Let's take a look at North America and our picks for this week before we move on to do that. Oh, excuse me, we actually missed one that we wanted to talk about.
Oh, Mouse Dig?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
rival.
we did that.
It's rival Obey.
Oh, that's a good one.
Obey,
That's a really big one.
as you said, rival. It feels like are on the downtrend a little bit. Obey Alliance, on the other hand, certainly on the upswing. They lost to Dignitas last week, but it was close, and they gave Dig really a run for their money. Do you think these two teams are passing each other right now, with rival going down and Obey going up?
I actually think to go 3 games. I've still got rival winning this one right now, but I can't count Obey out because Obey have been bringing their usual style back.
See, just like you were mentioning with Dignitas, so you got to like play off the hot hand, and I think that was my decision decider for this set. I think that while Rival and Obey are both capable of beating the other, I just feel like Obey has that slight edge right now. They seem a little bit better put together for the fall split.
This picks and bans. That's where he's going to come down to. That's why I think he's going to go all 3 games as well, because these two teams are generally evenly matched, but it's who gets their comp right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who managed to get the comp that they're after to try and get the execution that they want to do. We've seen both these teams have good times and bad times when they haven't got their comps.
Sure. Yeah, both teams have had really very lackluster games at times, but have also had opportunities to look very, very good against the top teams in their regions. We'll see which version of Jekyll and Hyde for both of these teams ends up showing up this week, but I do think that Obey, if they can win this set, really put themselves in a position to compete for not just going to DreamHack, but going to DreamHack with a lot of momentum and potentially a very good seed. It does feel like this team is starting to put the pieces together, but I'm just not ready to pick them yet.
Loser of that one probably has to come to placements. That's kind of where I'm at. That's how big this game is that whoever doesn't make this will not make top 2 EU.
I don't think either of these teams are missing placements. But I think that it's going to be Dig Energy.
I think that one of them is definitely out of the race after this set. The other one could still potentially make it, but I think whoever loses this is definitely placements.
Well, it's especially if Rival loses this and loses to Energy. They are all but guaranteed to not make top 2 at that point. So this is a big week for Team Rival coming up. Okay, now it's time to move on to North America and see our predictions over there and what we've got coming in this week. We've got E United up against Space Station. All of us the same across the board.
So I'm pretty sure, like me and you got exactly the same this week, Aggro?
Yes, you and I are the same.
So I guess you're going to be even with me for a week.
No, I want to. Can I change something? Is that too late?
No. Oh, only if you vote for Mouse to beat Dig.
No, I'll do. I'll choose one in NA. How about that?
Are you trying to swap up with your Splice in LG or your Trifecta?
No, that's not fair.
No, I'll take Trifecta over
SSG?
CLG.
SSG, cool, good call. That's a good one.
No, I said CLG.
So you want it on the record, Trifecta over CLG?
Correct. On the record, even though, just so I can switch it up from Hindu Man a little bit.
Okay.
E United versus Space Station is obviously the matchup to watch, though, in North America this week. This is another measuring stick for Space Station. They got, frankly, blown out week 1 of the fall split after the roster changes. How well has Space Station adjusted to Venenu being on the roster? Can they match up against the unquestionable best team in North America?
I think the bigger thing between these teams, though, is in week 1 we expected E United would be the one with the plug and play a little bit more, I'd say, with Baskin coming in there. I expected them to do well against Space Station. Round 2, this really is the test for Space Station. Can they defeat E United here? I don't see it, but there is a chance they could look stronger. This is a real litmus test. Yeah.
I just need to see some consistency from Space Station. I feel at times we see some of their greatest moments, and then we also see some of the worst attempts at sieging it. And it's just so back and forth at times that it feels so I don't want to say unsettling. That's the word I'm looking for. Whenever you're watching a Space Station set, it's just got to be one of the most unsettling feelings in the world as like a fan, both as a player and even to the public eye, just because you really never know what is going to happen next with those guys. And I think that is what made me decide to go for E United in the end, because I do feel like we've actually seen that continuous momentum from E United. They haven't seemed to really let up in the slightest, and I think there's been enough questionable moments from Space Station in their sets so far this fall that I am not quite prepared just yet for them to take this one home away from E United. I think, if anything, we probably look for this matchup at Worlds.
This Worlds matchup, certainly a potential one from North America, though both teams trying to punch their ticket without having to go to the placement stages. That's the big thing.
Probably make it, too.
Probably could. We've talked a lot about placement stages and DreamHack Atlanta and all that kind of stuff, but you don't have to worry about finishing top 2. You can just go to highresexpo.com and buy your tickets. November 16th
Mouse went there.
through the 18th. Or what was that, Grant?
That's went there.
They went to
I
hiresexpo.com.
tweeted it earlier. Yeah, they went to hiresexpo.com and went, you know what? We'll do this roster change and book our tickets now between the 16th and 18th and be in the crowd to make sure they can attend the World Championships live in Atlanta.
Well, hopefully they're able to make it to the after party as well, because that is on November 18th. It's hrxafterparty.eventbrite.com.
They might do some roster changes by then, so you might not be the same team.
Well, you don't all have to go to the after party.
That's
I mean,
fair.
you'd be a fool to go to HRX and not go to the after party. But
makes sense.
You could end up going there. Thanks so much for watching Esports Weekly this week. Again, it's going to start happening on Tuesdays, which is today, by the way. So this day, every week. Yeah, it's Tuesday. We got Global Series right after this. You excited for that?
Tuesday.
Hell yeah! I'm more excited for my second set today at SPL. It's gonna be good.
Now Sports versus Dig. That's the
Oh
second
yeah!
set today. SPL starts at 1. SGS starts at 11, which is right after this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.